Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Let your arms go heavy, your breath slow. And as you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing what time it is, where you are, and what city or village you're listening from. It's love to know. And if you'd like more quiet stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe so they gently appear when you need them most. Now, let's begin. You lie down at the close of the day, the room darkening, your breathing softening. Around you, the world continues to keep its strict account of time clocks ticking on walls, seconds marching forward on glowing screens, the earth itself spinning with its steady rhythm of day into night. But inside your body, inside your brain, something different begins to happen. The first stage of sleep is not silence, but surrender. Slowly, the boundaries between you and the external world soften. The loud insistence of seconds and minutes, so firm while you were awake, begins to lose its hold. The brain, which during the day works tirelessly to keep you aligned with external rhythms, eases its grip. Time itself, as you feel it, begins to slow. Imagine standing on a busy street, the rush of footsteps, the flicker of traffic lights, the chatter of voices, all signs of time pushing forward. Then imagine stepping off that street, walking into a quiet garden at dusk where everything grows softer. Aha! That is what happens when you drift into sleep. You leave behind the precision of the clock, entering a place where the measurement of moments begins to dissolve. The brain as a keeper of time while you are awake. Your brain is a master of timing. It helps you move to the rhythm of speech, anticipate the moment when a ball will land in your hand, measure the passing of minutes so you can arrive on time. Networks of neurons, scattered across different regions, act like tiny metronomes. They tick and pulse, aligning you to the forward flow of time in the outside world. But as sleep arrives, those metronomes slow their beat. The sensory input that anchors you to clocks, to the rhythm of voices and footsteps, fades away. Your brain disconnects from the environment, like a musician putting down the instrument after a long performance, without the constant cues of sound and sight. The measurement of time inside begins to soften. You might still hear a faint sound, the ticking of a distant clock, but it no longer anchors you. Instead, it becomes part of a drifting landscape, a gentle background hum rather than a strict reminder of passing moments. A river that loses its banks to sensation is subtle. You do not notice the moment when time's grip loosens, only that one moment you are awake and the next you are drifting. It is as though a river, once confined between firm banks, begins to spill outward, flowing more slowly, spreading across a wider plain. Your sense of a minute stretches. A breath feels longer, a pause heavier, a moment unmoored from the next. This slowing is not imagined, it is measurable. Studies of brain activity show that as you drift into sleep, electrical oscillations across neurons begin to lengthen. Pulses that once kept fast, busy rhythms now stretch into slower waves, the very shape of time inside you bending outward. The gentle disconnect as wakefulness recedes. External and internal time part ways. Outside, the second hand of a clock continues its precise march. Inside, the brain begins its own journey, no longer in step. You are still in the same world, but you are already stepping into another one. You might experience this in those drowsy moments when your eyelids grow heavy. A few minutes may feel longer than they are, or shorter. You look back and wonder, have I been drifting for seconds or for hours? The boundary blurs because the mechanism that binds your perception to the flow of time is already loosening. A personal university. Slowing of the world as you fall asleep is like the creation of a personal universe. The cosmos outside you continues in its grand mechanics, earth turning, stars drifting, galaxies swirling. But inside, your brain begins shaping a universe of its own. In that universe, time will not obey the same rules. This is why falling asleep can feel like surrendering to something larger than yourself. You are not simply closing your eyes. You are stepping into another order of reality, one where clocks do not dictate your experience, where the flow of moments bends and curves in ways you cannot control. The science of slowing scientists studying sleep use electroencephalograms EEGs to measure the patterns of the brain. In wakefulness, the brain shows fast, irregular rhythms known as beta waves, moving quickly like footsteps on a busy street. As you drift toward sleep, these are replaced by slower alpha waves, then by even slower theta waves. Each stage marks a deeper disconnect from the rigid timing of the waking world. This slowing is not just abstract. It changes how you feel the passage of time. Experiments have shown that people asked to judge the length of sounds or lights while falling asleep consistently misjudge. Some intervals seem longer, others shorter. Time has begun to slip from its anchors, becoming pliable, like clay, shaped by the mind rather than the clock. Why? It feels calming. Slowing of the world brings a deep calm. During the day, the brain is pulled by deadlines, by moments stacked, one upon another, by the constant tug of minutes. But as you enter sleep, you are freed from this pressure. The nervous system quiets, the heart slows, breathing becomes steady. The sense of urgency dissolves. It is as though the brain, in loosening its grip on time, also loosens its grip on worry. You are no longer caught in the forward rush. You are floating, carried gently without effort. This is why falling asleep often feels like drifting down a slow river. Carried toward a horizon you cannot see, but instinctively trust. A transition, not an end. The slowing of the world is not the end of time, but its transformation. Like twilight between day and night, this stage is a threshold, a gentle passage from one order to another. On one side lies the sharp tick of clocks, on the other, the fluid rhythm of dreams. In this moment, you are both within time and beyond. Minutes pass on the outside, but on the inside, time becomes subjective, elastic, open. What you feel is not illusion, but the brain's natural shift, an ancient rhythm of rest written into biology, a mirror of the cosmos. There is poetry in this. For just as the brain slows its measure of time, so too does the universe hold places where time itself slows. Near black holes, the pull of gravity bends space-time so tightly that moments stretch and warp. To an outside observer, time seems to freeze. In your brain, though on a gentler scale, something similar occurs. The flow of moments bends inward, slowing, loosening. This mirroring between body and cosmos suggests that you, too, are part of the great cycles. The slowing of your inner world is not separate from the universe, but a reflection of it. The rhythms of your sleep echo the deeper rhythms of space and time. Closing reflections as you drift into sleep tonight. Remember this: the slowing you feel is not an illusion, but a real shift inside your brain. You are stepping away from the strict time of clocks into the fluid time of dreams. The world outside continues, but within, you are entering another rhythm, softer, slower, circular. Time, like breath, does not vanish when it slows. It only transforms. And in that transformation, you are invited to rest, to let go, to be carried. For beyond this slowing lies a deeper descent, where time will ripple and bend even more. And soon, you will drift into that next stage. Asterisk, in the first descent of sleep, the world outside your eyelids begins to dissolve. Shadows soften, sounds stretch, and the rhythm of your breath takes over as the clock you follow. Here, time is still present, but it no longer feels steady. It ripples like water disturbed by a gentle wind. Moments overlap, seconds lengthen and contract. as if the mind is testing what it means to release control. You are not yet dreaming, not yet lost in visions of vast plains where ancient creatures once breathed, but you are close. This is the threshold where the body grows heavy and the mind grows light. Scientists call this N1 sleep, the borderland between waking and rest. It is the fragile place where a single sound can return you to alertness. But if you linger, you will slip deeper, carried downward by your own biology. The muscles relax, and sometimes they twitch as if the body is startled by the thought of letting go. A jolt, a falling sensation, and then a surrender. Here, the air around you becomes more than atmosphere. It becomes memory. The same oxygen filling your lungs once belonged to the breath of oceans, to the sigh of forests, to the last exhale of creatures that walked beneath alien constellations. Perhaps, this half-sleep, you were already touching that truth, that every descent into rest is also a descent into history, that the air which soothes you tonight has circled this planet for eons, through storms, through silence, through the rise and fall of empires and the extinction of beasts. And so, the first descent is not only into sleep, it is into connection. You are entering a river that has been flowing since before humanity, a rhythm that once rocked the dinosaurs and now rocks you. Slow waves roll through your mind, like an ocean turning with the moon. Each wave carries you deeper, where minutes no longer behave at this stage of sleep. The brain begins to hum with a rhythm older than language, older even than the first song of humankind. It is the rhythm of theta waves, gentle, loping curves that move like tides sliding across sand. Scientists measured them with electrodes and machines. That what they reveal feels more like poetry than data. The mind drifting into a sea that is both inner and infinite. When you are awake, your brain is lit by fast, sharp waves, as if it were a city glowing with electricity. Each street flashing with headlights and neon signs. But here, in the tidelands of early deep sleep, those lights dim, the streets empty, the city quiets. What remains is a coastline dark, vast and eternal, where the waves roll slowly in and out. These tides are not random. They are guided by the same biology that pulls at your lungs and heart, the same rhythms that mark your days with sunlight and your nights with shadow. Your body is an ocean, and your brain is its shore. The waves meet there, breaking softly, shaping thought into fragments, then fragments into nothing at all as they deepen. The waves grow slower, heavier, like the ocean settling after a storm. The chatter of waking thought dissolves. The clock that once ticked in regular seconds begins to falter, to bend, to stretch. Time here is not the same as time outside. Minutes may slip away like seconds, or linger like hours, while your body rests unaware. And as the minutes lose their order, your memories begin to loosen too. Thoughts you carried from the day, a conversation, a glance at the sky, a task unfinished, all of them soften under the tide. Some wash out to sea, never to return. Others sink, settling deep into the seabed of memory, where they may resurface later as dreams or recollections. This is the mind's quiet archivist working by moonlight, sorting, storing, discarding, without you ever noticing. Scientists call this stage into sleep, the bridge between drifting and dreaming. Here, your body temperature lowers, your heart slows, and your eyes, though closed, move less and less. Yet, within the skull, a secret activity unfolds. Bursts of electricity, sharp and sudden, like lightning in distant clouds. These bursts are called sleep spindles. They rise for only a second or two, then fade again into the waves. No one is fully certain what they do, but many believe they are protectors of sleep, keeping you wrapped within its waters, even when noise or thought tries to pull you back to waking dot. Imagine, okay, them as brief sparks that mend the fragile fabric of dreams, patching holes so the tide can carry you deeper without interruption. And deeper you go. Each cycle of the brainwaves feels like the pull of a hidden current, drawing you down into places where time folds differently. If someone were to wake you now, you might not know whether you had been sleeping a minute or an hour. Your inner tides obey, not the ticking of clocks, but the slow rhythm of survival itself. For thousands of years, before we charted sleep in laboratories, humans felt these waves without naming them. They spoke of drifting away, of being carried on unseen waters, of nights that seemed eternal and mornings that came too soon. Ancient poets compared sleep to death, but also to journeys across rivers, to ferries crossing into other worlds. Perhaps they sensed the tides long before science traced them, knowing by intuition what we now confirm with instruments, that the brain is a sea, and every night we are pulled beneath its surface. Think of it this way. You are lying on a shore, your body heavy as sand, and the ocean advances, wave after wave. At first, the water only laps at your feet. You feel it cool against your skin. Then, slowly, it rises, covering your legs, your chest, until you are weightless, suspended in its calm. You do not resist, because the water is familiar. It has always been there. It is what you are made of. This is why sleep feels inevitable. It is not a choice. It is a tide. And just as the moon pulls on the oceans, something vast and unseen pulls on your consciousness, guiding you inward, until the waking world is only a faraway shore. Now and then, fragments appear, faces, voices, half-formed images. They drift like flotsam on the tide. Some you recognize. Others are strange, borrowed from memories you do not know you keep. They are the beginnings of dreams, though you do not yet hold on to them. Okay? They are like foam dissolving as the wave pulls. Back, dotting through it all, the tide continues its work, erasing edges, softening borders, blurring the line between 1 minute and the next. If you could see your brain now, you might think of a dark sea lit occasionally by lightning flashes, but mostly calm, rolling, endless. The waves carry you gently but firmly, never asking permission, never faltering. You are afloat in something larger than yourself, something older than humanity, something the body remembers even when the mind forgets. And so you let go. You allow the tides to move through you, to carry away the clutter of the day, to bring you closer to the quiet center where sleep grows deepest. In this place, you are timeless. In this place, you are a traveler without a map. The ocean knows the way. The waves will take you exactly where you need to go. Asterisk in the quiet chamber of the night. When your body has settled into its most delicate rhythms, a new landscape of time begins to emerge. It is here, in REM sleep, that the mind loosens its ties to the ordinary ticking of the clock. The hours that once pressed against your waking life lose their grip. A second, a heartbeat, a sit may expand until it feels like an eternity, or contract until whole hours pass without leaving a trace. This stage of sleep is where the dreaming clock begins its work. It is not a clock built of gears, not one wound by human hands, but a mechanism woven out of shifting patterns of memory, emotion, and perception. The body still keeps its measure. The heart beats, the lungs rise and fall, but the mind, immersed in its theater of dreams, slips away from the rigid rule of seconds and minutes. You may have experienced it yourself. In a dream you lived through entire journeys, wandering a city, speaking to strangers, watching the sun rise and set, again lead to wake and find that scarcely 10 minutes have passed. Or you may close your eyes, drift into a fragment of a scene, and awaken startled, thinking hours must have flown by, when the clock at your bedside insists that only moments are lost. Why does the brain bend time in this way? Science offers clues, but not certainty. During REM sleep, the regions of the brain linked to memory and imagination ignite with activity, almost as if you are awake again. But the prefrontal cortex, the part that governs logic, sequence, and strict chronology, becomes quiet. Without its orderly hand, events and dreams are stitched together, not by real time, but by associations, an image leading to another image, a memory flowing into a feeling opening into a place. What you experience is not linear duration, but narrative rhythm, kind of inner music where tempo quickens and slows according to the story your brain is telling. It is this absence of linearity that makes dreams so strange. You may walk through a door and, without any passage of time, find yourself years older. You may speak to someone long gone, and, in the logic of the dream, they were never absent. Minutes and decades are blended until they feel the same. The dreaming clock is less a line and more a circle, spinning in any direction it chooses, free from the weights that dragged waking life forward. Ancient cultures noticed this too, long before science tried to measure it. Many spoke of dreams as journeys into timeless realms. To the Egyptians, a dream was a passage where the soul wandered outside the body. To the Greeks, it was a meeting with gods and shades beyond ordinary time. Even in folklore, dreamers fall asleep for a single night, only to awaken 100 years later, drift in visions that seem to last a lifetime, then return unchanged at dawn. All these myths echo the same recognition that the world of dreams follows its own peculiar schedule. Inside the brain, the chemistry of REM adds another layer. The neurotransmitters that mark waking alertness decline, while others that heighten emotional vividness rise. With this mixture, a single moment in a dream can feel saturated, overflowing with sensation. Time does not simply pass, dilates, becomes heavy, like honey dripping from a spoon. At other times, dreams move with astonishing speed, as if the mind cannot wait to leap from one image to the next. The dreaming clock has no steady tick. It is all accelerations and pauses, a pendulum swinging on invisible currents. Think of how this feels when you dream. You are running down a road, your feet strike the ground, but the scenery bends. Each step might last an age, as if you are trapped in slow motion. Or the road might collapse beneath you, and suddenly you are elsewhere, transported without any time at all. Your dreaming self accepts both without question. Only when you wake does the strangeness reveal itself, when the bedside clock tells you that the long odyssey lasted only a few minutes. There is a curious parallel here with the physics of time in the cosmos. Just as gravity can bend and stretch time, so too can the dreaming mind. Clock near your bed is rigid, counting seconds with precision, Kate, but inside your skull, in the landscapes of neurons and flickering synapses, another universe of time is unfolding, elastic, curved, and mysterious. In dreams, you live not by hours, but by impressions, not by duration, but by intensity. The dreaming clock also leaves its mark on memory. So often, when you recall a dream, you cannot place its sequence. Did one event cause the other? Did they happen side by side? The fragments drift like clouds with no fixed order. Neuroscientists believe this is because dreams do not unfold along a consistent timeline. Instead, they are like collages, stitched from disparate moments and experiences. Your brain may take a memory from yesterday, an image from years ago, and a sensation from only moments before sleep, then present them together as if they were simultaneous. The dreaming clock allows them to coexist outside of ordinary time. This lack of order has its purpose. During REM, the brain is believed to be consolidating memories, weaving emotional threads into long-term storage. To do so, it must detach from the rigid sequence of the day and explore freer, more associative patterns. Time is reshaped to serve memory's needs. The distortions you feel are the signs of this deeper work. And so, in the quiet dark, while your body lies still, the dreaming clock turns in secret. It does not tick like a metronome, swells and contracts, expands and folds. It grants you journeys through impossible landscapes and meetings with impossible figures. It carries you forward and backward without hesitation. And in its fluid embrace, you are released from the burden of chronology. When you next drift into REM sleep, you may find yourself asking, how long have I been here? Hours? Seconds? A bit. Question itself fades. In the world of the dreaming clock, the answer does not matter. What matters is the experience, the richness of color, the vividness of feeling, the strangeness of events that ignore the order of time. It is not a clock that measures. It is a clock that reminds you that time as you know it is not absolute. And when you wake, lying in the stillness of morning, you may notice that the dream lingers. Its memory stretches into your day as if time itself has left a residue. In that lingering, you carry a reminder that your mind can bend hours into minutes and minutes into eternity. That the clock inside your body is not the same as the clock on your wall. And that somewhere in the hidden folds of sleep, time itself is a dream, pliable and strange, turning endlessly like the hands of a dreaming clock. Awake. Memory is the quiet compass that orients you in the stream of life. It stitches together moments into a story, letting you know that one thing followed another. You rise from bed, make tea, open a book, step outside. Each action connects seamlessly because memory preserves the thread. Without it, the world would become a series of unmoored fragments, each one slipping away the moment it arrived in the waking world. Memory is so constant that its role often disappears from notice. It seems natural that you remember the path from your door to the street, the words of a conversation, or the feeling of a touch. But memory is not guaranteed. It is an active process, fragile, prone to lapses, when it falters, when a word cannot be recalled, or a face feels unfamiliar. The entire shape of time is disturbed. For time is not experienced as clocks or calendars. It is experienced as memory's gentle weaving. As you fall into sleep, this weaving begins to fray. At first, short threads slip from the loom. The details of the day, the number on the passing bus, the exact arrangement of clouds at noon quietly dissolve. Then, deeper still, the loom itself grows quieter. Dreams may arise, vivid yet unstable, because the anchor of memory is loosened. A dream conversation might feel long, filled with words and pauses, yet vanish completely the moment you wake. Or a dream journey may seem to last for hours, but on waking reduces to a single fleeting image. Memory serves as the timekeeper because it tells you before and after. Without it, there is no reliable sequence, only a haze of impressions. When you sleep, you drift closer to that haze. It is not the silence of unconsciousness, but a shifting state where time no longer has the same borders. A memory may appear inside a dream with the force of reality, a classroom from decades ago. A voice from childhood, then dissolve as if it never was. The dream self accepts this without resistance, for in sleep the mind does not measure with clocks, but with feelings, symbols, and echoes. This erosion of memory is not failure, but design. Sleep does not require the constant effort of remembering. The brain, relieved of the duty to track continuity, turns inward. It rehearses, reorganizes, prunes. In certain stages of sleep, it quietly stores away what is useful from the day, skills learned, patterns noticed, while letting go of what is unnecessary. In that letting go, time itself seems to soften. Imagine memory as a lantern you carry in waking life. It lights the path behind you so that you know how far you have come, and it glows faintly on the path ahead so you sense where to go. As you lie down and close your eyes, the lantern dims. The flame flickers, the light shrinks to a small circle, and then even that fades. You are not left in darkness, but in a twilight where distance and sequence matter less. In that twilight, you can float freely, unanchored from the strict order of seconds and minutes. There is a reason that dreams are often remembered only as fragments. Memory does not keep its full strength in the night. It's the hippocampus, the region that gathers experience into lasting form, becomes less active during REM sleep. Events occur, feelings are felt, landscapes unfold, yet they slip away before they can be stored. In the morning, only traces remain, like footprints half washed by the tide. Some linger for a few steps, some vanish almost instantly. This is why sleep can feel timeless. Without memory's firm scaffolding, you cannot easily tell whether a dream lasted seconds or hours. Without memory, you cannot be certain whether the image you recall came before or after another. Time blurs, looping back, repeating, skipping ahead. You may dream of walking through a city, then suddenly find yourself on a mountain, then in a room that seems both familiar and strange. In the moment, there is no contradiction. Only when awake, when memory attempts to impose order, does the sequence feel peculiar. And yet, paradoxically, memory is also being written during sleep. While you may not recall the dream, your brain is still sorting, replaying, strengthening connections. Studies have shown that practicing a skill before bed often makes performance smoother in the morning. The details of the practice may not be remembered, but the skill is nonetheless consolidated. Memory in sleep is both absent and present, both frayed and active. It is a quieter kind of timekeeping, one that operates beneath awareness. Consider also how forgetting is part of memory's rhythm. If nothing were ever forgotten, your mind would drown in detail the exact pattern of every leaf you've seen, the sound of every passing car, the face of every stranger. Sleep helps trim this abundance. What remains is not the raw record, but the shape, the pattern, the lesson. Memory, in this sense, does not simply store. It curates. It decides what becomes part of the self's story and what is released into silence. In that silence, time takes on a different form. You may close your eyes for what feels like moments and open them to find that hours have passed. You may enter sleep at midnight and wake at dawn with little sense of the interval. Without memory, the stretch of hours is not experienced. It's skipped as if you have stepped across a river in a single stride. This is why sleep can feel instantaneous, and also why it restores. To live always inside the weight of memory would be exhausting. Sleep allows for relief, for forgetting, for the suspension of time's constant ticking. Memory, then, is both timekeeper and releaser. Awake, it guards sequence. Asleep, it lets go. Two together create balanced continuity and renewal. Without memory, life would be scattered. Without forgetting, life would be unbearable. In the rhythm of day and night, one holds the thread. The other allows it to loosen. As you drift now, think of memory's lantern fading to embers. Let the order of the day recede. Do not strain to remember what came first or what comes next. Allow time to soften. In this state, you are closer to the way the cosmos itself might fill an endless expanse without clear beginnings or endings. A place where sequence does not rule and where memory is not burden, but quiet background. In sleep, you are both held and freed. Held by the hidden processes that keep your deeper memories safe, freed from the demand to keep every moment in sequence. Here, time loses its edge, and you float in the gentle space where memory no longer keeps watch. Inside the quiet chamber of your mind. A billion tiny lights are flickering. Each one is a neuron, a single cell shaped like a branching tree. Each is smaller than a grain of sand. Together, they form a forest vast enough to hold the memories of a lifetime. While you sleep, this forest is not silent. It is alive, with faint pulses, small sparks that rise and fall like fireflies in the dark. These sparks are not random. They move in waves, in clusters, in echoes that cross from one part of the brain to another. Each flicker is an electrical signal, charged ions rushing across a cell membrane, carrying whispers of thought. During the day, these sparks weave together the fabric of perceptions, sound, touch, language, decisions. At night, when you rest, they do something more subtle. They replay, they rehearse, they reorganize. In the earliest hours of sleep, neurons fire slowly, like embers cooling after a long day. The rhythm is steady, heavy, and calm. Scientists call this stage slow wave sleep, where the brain hums with deep oscillations. Each neuron flickers in unison, millions of them aligning like a crowd breathing together. For a moment, they spark, then they all fall silent. Spark, silence. Spark, silence. It is like a city switching its lights on and off in perfect coordination. But as your sleep deepens, these patterns become more intricate. The flickers break apart into smaller clusters, one region activating while another rests. It is in this shifting dance that the brain begins to process memory, moving fragments of your day from short-term stores into long-term vaults. The hippocampus, an ancient structure deep inside your brain, replays the day's experiences. Neurons, their fire in sequences, like a silent film reel, sending information outward to the cortex, where it will be filed away for years, perhaps for a lifetime. Every flicker is a piece of time. A single burst may last only milliseconds, but when strung together, they create the flow of thought. In sleep, time itself becomes tied to these rhythms. When neurons fire slowly, time feels heavy and drawn out. When they fire rapidly, in bursts as during dreaming, time accelerates and folds. It is as if the pace of the flickers sets the tempo for the symphony of your inner world. Think of each neuron like a tiny clock. It does not keep hours and minutes, but it ticks with its own rhythm, firing at regular intervals or responding to the pulses of its neighbors. Millions of such clocks, flickering in harmony and conflict, form the brain's inner sense of time. During waking hours, these clocks are guided by external cues: the rising sun, the ticking of an actual clock, the movements of people around you. In sleep, those external anchors fall away. Only the flicker remains, and so time bends to the patterns of neurons. Sometimes, the flickers surge in a storm. In REM sleep, when dreaming is most vivid, neurons burst rapidly, their sparks almost indistinguishable from waking life. The brainstem sends signals upward, activating the cortex with restless energy. Images, sounds, and stories emerge, stitched together by these fast-paced rhythms. In those moments, time can fragment. A dream may span years in the space of a few minutes, or an instant may feel eternal. The neurons do not care about the ticking of the clock on your wall. They follow only the rhythm of their flicker. There is also silence between the sparks, tiny pauses, like spaces between notes in a melody. These silences are just as important as the activity. They allow neurons to reset, to balance, to prepare for the next flicker. In deep sleep, the brain spends nearly half its time in this quiet, where nothing seems to happen. Yet this emptiness is essential, the still canvas upon which the sparks can paint. Without it, the brain would collapse into chaos. Imagine lying in a meadow on a summer night, watching fireflies. One spark here, another there. Then, suddenly, a whole patch glows in unison. The brain's neurons are like this. Patterns emerge, fade, and reappear. Some are regular, like heartbeats. Others are chaotic, like lightning storms. These patterns shift with every stage of sleep, creating the sense that you are moving through layers of time. Science has only begun to understand these flickers. Electrodes placed on the scalp detect the faint echoes of electrical activity, showing waves of different frequencies. Delta waves, slow and heavy, mark the deepest sleep. Theta waves, lighter and more dreamlike, appear as you drift in and out of consciousness. Beta and gamma bursts, fast and sharp, flicker during dreams and even moments of insight. Each of these rhythms reflects billions of neurons sparking together, their combined light shaping the theater of your mind. Some researchers believe that consciousness itself is nothing more than this flickering and emergent glow from countless small sparks. If so, then even in sleep, your awareness does not vanish. It only dims, like lanterns turned low. Dreams are the glow that remains, fragile and shifting, built from the same flickers that guide you when awake. Consider also that these flickers are ancient. Long before humans, even before mammals, early nervous systems flickered with electrical pulses. A jellyfish drifting in the ocean sends sparks through its nerve net to contract and move. A worm burrowed in the soil flickers with tiny signals to bend and feed. Over hundreds of millions of years, these sparks became more complex, until they built the human brain, billions of neurons flickering together in endless combinations. When you sleep tonight, you are joining a rhythm older than humanity, older than history. And so, in the stillness of night, when your eyes are closed and your breath is slow, your neurons will continue to flicker. They will hum with the electricity of memory. They will glow with the sparks of dreams. They will rest in silence and then surge in storms. Their rhythm will shape your sense of time, sometimes slow, sometimes fast, sometimes gone altogether. The flicker of neurons is both fragile and eternal. Each spark is brief, gone in less than the blink of an eye. But together, they never stop. They are the constant pulse of life, carrying you through waking and sleeping, through memory and forgetting, through time and its absence. As you drift now, let the image of those tiny fireflies fill your mental billion sparks, flickering softly in the vast forest of your brain. Their quiet rhythm is your companion through the night, guiding you gently, endlessly, through the mystery of time. Asterisk, there is something deeply puzzling about the way time behaves inside the mind when we dream. You close your eyes, your body goes still, and your brain sinks into its nightly rhythms. Somewhere in the vast network of firing neurons, a burst of activity ignites. The burst may last for only a few seconds, no longer than the snap of a finger. Yet, when you awaken, you may recall a story, a journey, perhaps even an entire lifetime that seemed to unfold within that sliver of time. Scientists have long noted this paradox. The clock outside, steady and impartial, ticks forward at its usual pace, while the clock within your dream stretches or collapses time until it becomes unrecognizable. A 10-second surge of neural activity can create a dream in which you travel across cities, hold conversations, endure conflicts, or grow older. It is as though the dream world is unconcerned with the strict arithmetic of seconds and minutes. It borrows, it compresses, it invents. Think of those moments when you wake and feel convinced. You've spent days wandering through a strange landscape, only to find that you have been asleep for less than an hour. Some dreamers report lifetimes. They marry, raise children, and watch them grow before the alarm sounds on a weekday morning. Others experience the reverse, what feels like only a brief flicker of imagination, a glimpse of a face or a fragment of music, but upon checking the clock, they find that hours have passed. Why does the mind treat time this way? Part of the answer lies in memory itself. When you are awake, your memory functions like a thread, weaving events together into a line. One thing happens, then another, and the line extends forward. The order of events, their duration, and their cause and effect relationships are all recorded. That record is what gives time its shape. In dreams, memory is unmoored. Events are stitched together not by the steady needle of the clock, but by associations, emotions, fragments of thought. A scene can lead to another scene because the color blue appears in both, or because the same feeling arises, or because your brain simply leaps across the gap. The line of time frays into loose strands, yet your dreaming self accepts it without question. Consider a common dream. You find yourself walking down a street in a familiar city. You turn a corner and suddenly you are inside a childhood home. There was no true passage of time, no actual journey between these places, yet your dream accepts the continuity. To your dreaming mind, the moments in between must have existed, because here you are, having arrived. Your brain, retroactively, fills in a sense of time past, even though it never happened. This is how seconds can feel like centuries. Memory in dreams builds bridges where none exist, creating the illusion of long journeys, extended conversations, entire arcs of life. Psychologists studying dreams sometimes compare them to works of fiction written by the brain. A novel can tell the story of 50 years within 200 pages. A film can show a character's entire life in 2 hours. The audience does not literally experience those decades. They are compressed into narrative highlights. Dreams function the same way. A single burst of neural sparks can generate a condensed narrative, skipping days, skipping years, leaping across time, yet presenting it as continuous. And because your dreaming mind has no external clock to consult, you accept the story at face value. There are even experiments suggesting that dream time can be manipulated. In studies where sleeping participants are given subtle cues as counting tones or flashes of light, has been found that some dreamers can actually keep track of time with surprising accuracy. In lucid dreams, when dreamers are aware that they are dreaming, they have been asked to perform tasks like counting to 10 before signaling with an eye movement. Often, the duration inside the dream matches the real time outside, yet at other times, the same experiments reveal distortions, seconds stretching, minutes vanishing. The line between accuracy and fantasy is porous. There is something deeply puzzling about the way time behaves inside the mind when we dream. You close your eyes, your body goes still, and your brain sinks into its nightly rhythms. Somewhere in the vast network of firing neurons, a burst of activity ignites. The burst may last for only a few seconds, no longer than the snap of a finger. Yet, when you awaken, you may recall a story, a journey, perhaps even an entire lifetime that seemed to unfold within that sliver of time. Scientists have long noted this paradox. The clock outside, steady and impartial, ticks forward at its usual pace, while the clock within your dream stretches or collapses time until it becomes unrecognizable. A 10-second surge of neural activity can create a dream in which you travel across cities, hold conversations, endure conflicts, or grow older. It is as though the dream world is unconcerned with the strict arithmetic of seconds and minutes. It borrows, it compresses, invents. Think of those moments when you wake and feel convinced you've spent days wandering through a strange landscape, only to find that you have been asleep for less than an hour. Some dreamers report lifetimes. They marry, raise children, and watch them grow before their alarm sounds on a weekday morning. Others experience the reverse, what feels like only a brief flicker of imagination, a glimpse of a face or a fragment of music. But upon checking the clock, they find that hours have passed. Why does the mind treat time this way? Part of the answer lies in memory itself. When you are awake, your memory functions like a thread, weaving events together into a line. One thing happens, then another, and the line extends forward. It's the order of events, their duration, and their cause and effect. Relationships are all recorded. That record is what gives time its shape. But in dreams, memory is unmoored. Events are stitched together, not by the steady needle of the clock, but by associations, emotions, fragments of thought. A scene can lead to another scene because the color blue appears in both, or because the same feeling arises, or because your brain simply leaps across the gap, the line of time frays into loose strands. Yet your dreaming self accepts it without question. Consider a common dream. You find yourself walking down a street in a familiar city. You turn a corner, and suddenly you are inside a childhood home. There was no true passage of time, no actual journey between these places. Yet your dream accepts the continuity. To your dreaming mind, the moments in between must have existed, because here you are, having arrived. Your brain retroactively fills in the sense of time past, even though it never happened. This is how seconds can feel like centuries. Memory, in dreams, builds bridges where none exist, creating the illusion of long journeys, extended conversations, entire arcs of life. Psychologists studying dreams sometimes compare them to works of fiction written by the brain. A novel can tell the story of 50 years within 200 pages. A film can show a character's entire life in 2 hours. The audience does not literally experience those decades. They are compressed into narrative highlights. Dreams function the same way. A single burst of neural sparks can generate a condensed narrative, skipping days, skipping years, leaping across time, yet presenting it as continuous. And because your dreaming mind has no external clock to consult, you accept the story at face value. There are even experiments suggesting that dream time can be manipulated. In studies where sleeping participants are given subtle cues such as counting tones or flashes of light, has been found that some dreamers can actually keep track of time with surprising accuracy. In lucid dreams, when dreamers are aware that they are dreaming, they have been asked to perform tasks like counting to 10 before signaling with an eye movement. Often, the duration inside the dream matches the real time outside. Yet, at other times, the same experiments reveal distortions, seconds stretching, minutes vanishing. The line between accuracy and fantasy is porous. This paradox raises deeper questions about our waking perception of time. If our sense of hours and minutes is built upon memory and interpretation, then perhaps, even in waking life, we live in something like a dreamman interpretation, stitched together by our brain. Your day feels long or short, not because the earth spins any faster, but because of how many memories and events you weave into it. A dull day with little change may feel brief in retrospect. Day full of vivid new experiences may seem vast, even though both lasted exactly the same number of hours. Dreams merely exaggerate this truth. They are laboratories of time where the rules are stretched until their fragility is revealed. They show us that time, as we feel it, is not a fixed current, but a sensation shaped by memory, emotion, and narrative. Some dreamers describe the unsettling experience of living entire other lives in a single dream. They awaken with knowledge of families they never had, jobs they never worked, houses they never built. For a moment, waking life feels like the dream, and the dream feels like the life. The strangeness fades, but the impression lingers. If the mind can create decades in a night, how do we know the decades of waking life are not themselves another layer of dreaming? There is also the phenomenon of recurring dreams, in which the same story repeats over months or years. To the dreamer, it may feel like a continuation, as though the dream time extends across nights. Perhaps this is the closest the brain comes to creating a parallel timeline, one in which each night's brief flicker of neurons adds another chapter. Ancient cultures often treated dreams as glimpses of other worlds. Some thought they were messages from gods. Others believed they were travels of the soul. What all these traditions recognized in their own language is that dreams occupy a strange relationship with time. They are not bound by the simple march of minutes. They bend, stretch, repeat, or collapse time altogether. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, know that you may enter a world where seconds open into centuries, and centuries dissolve into seconds. You may live a life that vanishes with the dawn, or you may blink and find that hours have passed. In either case, your experience of time will be shaped not by the clock on your bedside table, but by the quiet, mysterious work of your dreaming brain. And when you awaken, with fragments of stories still clinging to you, you might wonder, was that dream only a moment long, or did it span an entire age? The truth is both and neither. Time in dreams is not measured, it is felt. And that feeling can hold a lifetime inside the space of a breath. Asterisk inside you. Buried deeper than thought, deeper than dream, is a rhythm that does not sleep. It is older than memory, older than language, older even than the shape of our species. It is the rhythm of light and dark, of waking and resting, of day and night. It is the circadian clock, a biological timekeeper, etched into nearly every cell of your body, while your mind drifts in the strange currents of sleep. This clock continues its steady work. It counts in cycles, not in seconds. It listens to the rise and fall of the sun, the faint cues of temperature, the whisper of hormones flowing through the blood. It marks time, not as machines do, with rigid ticks, but with waves subtle, conjulating patterns that flow through you, guiding when you sleep, when you wake, when you feel hunger. When you feel most alive, at the center of this hidden system, lies a tiny structure in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. It sits just above the crossing of the optic nerves, a place where light first delivers its news of the outside world. Each morning, as dawn touches your eyes, light pours inward, striking this cluster of neurons, like a conductor raising its hand to begin the symphony. The SEN signals to the rest of the body. It is day once more. This clock is not a single instrument, but a network. Every organ, every tissue, even nearly every cell has its own local rhythm, its own clock genes that hum with the cycle of 24 hours. Your liver, your heart, your skin, each keeps its own time. But the SCN acts as the master, the one that synchronizes the others. Without it, the body would fall into disarray, each part following its own beat, no longer united in harmony. And so, even as dreams scatter memory, even as time inside the mind stretches and collapses, the circadian rhythm carries on beneath. If your dreams are a river that can rush forward or spiral backward, then the circadian clock is a riverbank holding the flow in place, reminding your body where it is in the grander cycle of day and night. Consider what happens when this hidden clock falters. A traveler flying across oceans feels its misalignment as jet lag. The body's rhythms no longer match the rhythm of the world outside. The stomach hungers at midnight. The mind grows drowsy at noon. The heart beats to a confused tempo, and sleep becomes restless. Only slowly, as days pass, does light and darkness coax the body back into tune. Shift workers know this dissonance as well. When night after night they work beneath artificial light, while the sun waits unseen below the horizon, the circadian clock strains against its natural setting. Health phrase: fatigue becomes a constant companion. The hidden metronome longs to return to its ancient partnership with the rising sun. But in the deep stillness of your bed, your circadian rhythm is where it was designed to be. As your eyelids closed against the fading light, the clock quietly released melatonin from the pineal gland, a chemical lullaby whispering to the body, it is time to rest. As you lie in darkness now, that signal continues, supporting the architecture of your sleep. Even as dreams twist perception, the clock keeps watch. Your temperature dips in the night, reaching its lowest point just before dawn. Blood pressure lowers. The immune system sets to work, repairing, scanning, restoring. Growth hormone pulses, patching tissues, strengthening bones. All of this is timed by the rhythm. You may dream of centuries passing or seconds, but your body moves through the night with a steady order, a pattern older than you are. Animals share this clock with you. Birds, mammals, insects, even plants live by circadian rhythm. A flower knows when to open and when to fold its petals, though it has never seen a clock. A nocturnal animal wakes when you fall asleep, guided not by choice, but by the same deep cycles of light and dark. In this, your body belongs not only to you, but to the world itself, tied to the turning of the earth. Some scientists wonder whether circadian rhythms connect us more profoundly to the cosmos. After all, the cycle of 24 hours is not arbitrary. It is the time it takes for our planet to spin once on its axis. The rhythm of your sleep, the quiet beat of hormones and temperature inside you, is therefore synchronized to the earth itself. As you lie here, drifting deeper, your pulse, your breath, your dreams all rise and fall in time with the turning of the planet beneath you. It is a humbling thought. The universe turns. The planet spins, and you, a tiny fragment of life, carry within you a clock that reflects those motions. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are one of its expressions. Sometimes the rhythm falters with age. Sleep grows lighter. Nights shorten. The release of melatonin weakens, and the circadian cycle frays. Yet even then, the body remembers. The pattern never truly leaves. It is etched into the DNA itself, in the molecular switches that govern life. Every morning, when light strikes the eye, the cycle begins anew, as though the universe itself is winding the clock once again. Even now, as you rest, your circadian rhythm is guiding you toward tomorrow. Near dawn, cortisol will rise in your bloodstream, not as stress, but as a gentle stirring, a readiness to wake. Your body will prepare your mind for the day to come, long before you open your eyes. The hidden metronome will bring you, step by step, from deep sleep to lighter stages until the first light slips past your window, and when you wake, you may feel as though you have returned from another world. Time may have stretched, bent, folded in on itself, yet your body's hidden clock will tell you, it is morning, it is time, the dream has ended, and the day begins again. Sleep may seem like a journey into timelessness, okay? But within you, quiet and unbroken, the rhythm endures. It is not a prison, but a guide, reminding you that in the cycles of light and dark, you are part of something far greater. Each night you return, each morning you rise, carried by the same turning that has moved through countless dawns, so as you drift now deeper into rest. Know this, though your dreams may fold and stretch time into shapes beyond recognition, the hidden clock within you continues to keep its faithful measure. It whispers not in seconds, but in rhythms, not in numbers, but in cycles. And it is this clock, ancient and invisible, that will lead you safely through the night. Asterisk time has rules in the waking world. It moves in one direction, steady as the hands of a clock. Okay? Seconds tick, minutes pass, days unfold into years. Okay? You can recall the past, live in the present, and imagine the future, but you cannot step outside the forward flow. Yet, when sleep pulls you under, this familiar law loosens its grip. In dreams, the mind seems to bend the arrow of time, folding it until beginnings and endings blur. Consider how often you have closed your eyes for what felt like only moments, only to wake and discover hours had slipped by unnoticed. Or the reverse, a dream in which you lived through entire journeys, full conversations, even whole chapters of life yet unwaking. You find that only minutes have passed. This distortion of time is one of the most mysterious qualities of dreaming. Scientists studying sleep have found that in rapid eye movement sleep, the stage where most vivid dreams occur, the brain's activity resembles wakefulness, areas responsible for memory, imagination, and emotion ignite like constellations. In this state, the brain does not measure time by external clocks. Instead, it weaves sequences from fragments of memory and expectation. The result is a narrative that can stretch or shrink depending on how the mind stitches events together. In this way, dreams become a kind of time travel. You may find yourself reliving a moment from years ago, a childhood classroom, a family dinner, the first day at a new job. Yet details are never quite the same. A teacher may wear a different face, a house may be rearranged, people who never met in reality may sit side by side. Your brain is not replaying a tape, just reconstructing the past from stored pieces, filling gaps with invention. You are traveling backward, but along a path laid by imagination as much as memory. Other dreams cast you forward. You may attend events that have not yet happened, conversations that await you tomorrow, fears of what could go wrong, or hopes of what may go right. This, too, is the mind's rehearsal. Studies show that dreaming often prepares us for challenges. A student dreaming of exams, an athlete rehearsing movements in sleep, even a person imagining possible conflicts or performing simulations. The brain explores futures, running through possibilities like pages in a book. Sometimes these imagined futures are realistic. Other times they veer into the impossible. Yet both serve a purpose: to prepare, to adapt. It's two test scenarios in a safe space where nothing is truly at stake. Between past and future lies the strangest form of dream time, moments that never existed at all. Entire worlds may be invented, a city you have never visited, but that feels instantly familiar. A friendship that blossoms in the space of a single dream night, a landscape with its own laws of nature. These are not rehearsals or replays. They are creations, born in the same brain that, by day, follows the rules of clocks and calendars. One explanation for this sense of timelessness lies in the way dreams bypass the usual anchors of time perception. When awake, you measure time by changes in your surroundings, the sun's path, the ticking of seconds, the rhythm of tasks. Asleep, these cues vanish. The mind floats in an internal sea, and without landmarks. Minutes can feel like eternities or vanish into nothing. Neuroscientists have conducted experiments where dreamers were asked to move their eyes in a specific pattern when they became lucid aware they were dreaming. These signals allowed researchers to mark the beginning and end of a dream sequence. They found that dream time often roughly matches real time, yet the experience of it does not. The brain can compress entire lifetimes of feeling into a brief neural burst, or it can draw out seconds into endless stretches of sensation. In mythology and folklore, this phenomenon often appears as stories of people who enter a dream, a fairy world, or an enchanted sleep, only to awaken and discover that decades have passed or that no time at all has gone by. Ancient cultures intuited what modern science suggests. Sleep is a place where time's rules bend, sometimes breaking altogether. For the dreamer, this time travel is not merely curiosity. It shapes the way memory and identity form. By revisiting the past, your brain strengthens certain recollections, making them more vivid or, at times, altering them slightly. By imagining the future, it equips you for challenges ahead. By creating moments that never were, it explores the edges of possibility, expanding what you can conceive as real. Imagine lying in bed tonight, sinking slowly into sleep. Your body rests, but your mind begins to wander. Perhaps you find yourself walking through the halls of your old school, hearing voices of classmates long forgotten. Or perhaps you stand on the shore of an unfamiliar ocean, waves glowing under alien stars. Hours may pass, or perhaps only minutes. Either way, when you open your eyes again, we'll return not just to the morning light, but also carrying echoes of travels that no clock recorded. Dream time is private, unmeasured, untethered. It may bring comfort, confusion, joy, or fear, but it always reveals something about the mind's relationship to time itself. The arrow that rules waking life softens into a circle, a spiral, a loop. The dreamer becomes a traveler, moving not only through landscapes, but also through eras past remembered, future rehearsed, moments imagined. And as you drift deeper into your own night, you might wonder, is this time travel of dreams merely an illusion? Or is it a glimpse of a greater truth that time itself, even in the vast universe, is more flexible than we know? Asterisk, the silence between. Dreams is not a void in the frightening sense. Hey, it is more like a soft exhalation, a pause that the mind allows itself. If thoughts are a constant stream, then these pauses are the still pools between the currents. They are easy to miss. You rarely notice when a dream ends, and you rarely recognize the moment before the next one begins. Yet, within these instants measured, not in minutes, but in the absence of them lies a mystery about how time is woven. Think of it the way a composer writes music. A song is not only the notes played, but also the spaces between them. The rests matter just as much as the sounds. Without pauses, there is no rhythm, only noise. The brain seems to know this. As it drifts through its nightly symphony, it places small silences between the wild crescendos of dreams. And in those silences, time has no weight. Scientists studying sleep call these moments microarousals or phase transitions. They are shifts in brain state, brief interludes where activity quiets before resuming. To the sleeper, they are invisible. But perhaps these pauses are when the brain sets down one thread of experience and reaches for another. It is as if you are walking along a path, then stepping across a narrow bridge into another landscape. On the bridge itself, there is no scenery, only the act of crossing. What happens to time in this crossing? It may not exist at all, at least not in the way you measure it while awake. The brain's inner clock, the pulse of neurons, the rhythm of waves slows or suspends for a moment. And without rhythm, there is no sense of duration. It is not long. It is not short. It simply is not. There is a curious comfort in imagining that several times each night you are carried through pockets of nothingness. You are suspended like a lantern between gusts of wind, glowing but unmoving. In these pauses, your body continues to breathe, your heart continues to beat, but your sense of being, your awareness of now slips quietly away. Sometimes, pauses between dreams may be where memories are folded. The brain, in its tireless housekeeping, files away fragments of the day, weaving them into long-term storage. Like a librarian sliding books back into place after a reading, the pause is not an end, but a moment of order. The dream ends, the shelves are straightened, and the next dream begins. Other times, these pauses may be moments of repair. Cells reorganize, chemicals rebalance, neural circuits reset. Imagine a clock that winds itself in the darkness, tightening springs, aligning gears. The silence between dreams may be the soundless work of keeping the machinery of thought in motion. What is remarkable is how familiar this feels, even though you never notice it. You have moved through countless pauses in your life every night. Every sleep cycle, yet you cannot recall a single one. They are like the blank spaces between stars and the sky. It's vast, essential, but invisible to the hurried gaze. Some philosophers wonder if these pauses are where consciousness truly disappears. Perhaps we are not always dreaming. Perhaps there are gulfs of non-existence scattered through our nights. And yet, when you wake, you feel continuous. You believe you have been present all along. The mind, it seems, is generous with its illusions. It stitches together dreams and silences into one flowing fabric, hiding the seams. This makes you wonder, about waking life between thoughts. When your mind drifts and you lose the thread for a second, are you experiencing something similar? Little dissolves of time where you're not truly present. The philosopher William James once called this the fringe of consciousness, the vague, penumbral edges of awareness. Perhaps sleep simply widens those edges into whole valleys of absence. There is also poetry in imagining that the pauses between dreams are the closest you come to timelessness, not eternity in the grand cosmic sense, but tiny personal eternities, moments outside the measure of clocks. Each night, you slip into them without effort. You taste the possibility of existing beyond seconds and minutes, though you never remember the flavor. What if death feels like this? Not darkness, not terror, but the gentle pause that always follows one dream and precedes another. A soft surrender, without counting, without worry. It is a thought, both humbling and calming. It's a lullaby whispered by the silence itself. In some spiritual traditions, these pauses are seen as doorways. The spaces between thoughts, they say, are where truth resides. For if the mind is noisy, then wisdom hides in the quiet. The sleeper, without knowing, touches these doorways every night. You walk through silence into new worlds, unaware of the threshold beneath your feet. And so, between dreams, time unravels. Not stretched, not compressed, but dissolved. It slips like sand between your fingers, not because it is scarce, but because, for a moment, there is nothing to hold. Imagine yourself floating in such a pause. No images before you, no voices within, just a soft hum of being, steady as the tide. You are not lost. You are not found. You are simply suspended, like a leaf on still air. Then, quietly, the next dream begins, and the leaf drifts onward. By morning, you will not remember how many times you entered this silence, but it will have shaped your night, just as the rests shaped the melody of a song. Time will have slipped through unnoticed, and yet it will have carried you closer to dawn. And so, the pause between thoughts is not absence, but presence of another kind. It is the universe reminding you that not all of existence needs to be filled. That silence, too, is part of the story. That the spaces between dreams are as essential as the dreams themselves. And perhaps, though you will never know, each pause is longer than you think. Perhaps, for an instant, the universe holds its breath with you, and when it exhales, you find yourself in a new dream, as if nothing has happened at all. Asterisk sleep is not one long river that flows steadily until morning. It is more like a series of circles drawn softly in the dark, one after another. You begin, at the edge, dipping into drowsiness, sliding into the first shallow waters of light sleep. From there, the circle carries you downward into deeper stages where your body rests, heals, and forgets the day. Then, without warning, it pulls you upward again, into the strange, vivid theater of dreams. This rhythm is called a sleep cycle. Most adults drift through 4 to 6 cycles in a night, each lasting about 90 minutes. Yet inside that simple number is a complexity that feels ancient, almost cosmic. Every 90 minutes, your body is taken on a journey. The descent, the stillness, the dreaming, the return, and when one ends, another quietly begins. It is as though the night is a clock with hands that do not point to numbers, but to repeating states of being. Time is measured not only by hours, but by the turning of this hidden wheel inside you. In the first cycle, your body takes its time. The descent is long. The deep stage stretches out. Muscles sink into heaviness. Breath slows to a whisper, and brain waves spread into wide, slow arcs. It is a kind of rehearsal, as if your body is testing the machinery of rest. The dreams in this early round are brief, fragmentary, and easily forgotten. A passing image of a door, a sound that echoes, a sensation of falling. Then the cycle closes, and another begins by the second and third loops. The rhythm deepens. Your body trusts the process now. Deep sleep comes faster, and it is heavier. In these stages, growth hormone is released. Tissues repair themselves. The immune system strengthens. You're being rebuilt, piece by piece. It's the waking mind. This repair is invisible, but it is constant. Like a craftsman working quietly in the dark. The body restores what the day has worn away. And then, just as it has before, the wheel turns upward. Your eyes move behind closed lids. Your heart rate quickens. Your brain ignites with activity. This is REM sleep, where time itself bends. A single minute of brain activity here can bloom into a dream that feels like an entire chapter of life. When REM ends, you do not awaken fully. Instead, the cycle resets, like the hand of a clock returning to the top. The process begins again. Light sleep, deep sleep, dream. Over and over until morning. Some people describe these cycles as tides, rising and falling with precision. Thus, compare them to seasons: winter for the deep, quiet phases, spring for the sudden bloom of dreams. However you imagine them, the loops are steady, ancient, and shared by almost every living creature. Birds, cats, whales, and humans all follow their own versions of this repeating path. There is comfort in this sameness. While the world outside moves in unpredictable ways, inside the body there is order. A promise that each night your mind and body will walk the same path, circling back again and again, even if you never notice it. Scientists have found that these loops change with age. Children spend much more time in deep sleep, their cycles tilted toward growth and development. Teenagers drift longer in REM, their brains rehearsing and rewiring as they move toward adulthood. Older adults may find the loops shorten, fragment, or become less stable. The circles grow smaller, but they still turn quietly, reliably. Even when sleep is disrupted, the cycle attempts to heal itself. If you lose deep sleep one night, your body will dive into it more quickly than next. If you are deprived of dreams, the next REM stage will often surge with intensity. This is called REM rebound. It's as if the dreaming mind insists on making up for lost time. It is another reminder that these loops are not optional. They are a necessity woven into the fabric of being alive. The loops of night also remind us that time inside the mind is not the same as time outside. In the outer world, clocks tick evenly, indifferent to you. Inside, the cycles spiral and fold, making the night feel both endless and fleeting. You may close your eyes at midnight and open them at dawn, unsure if a moment or an eternity has passed. To think of sleep this way is to see it not as a simple rest, but as a kind of nightly journey, one where the traveler is carried through repeating lands, the shallow coast of light sleep, the dark forest of deep sleep, the vivid cities of dream. Each return to the surface is not an end, but a reminder that the path will be taken again. There is also a gentleness in the loops. They do not rush. They do not demand that you stay conscious of them. They unfold, whether you are aware or not. You could resist, fight, sleep, force yourself awake, but when finally you surrender, the loops will catch you, cradle you, and draw you in as though nothing was interrupted. And in this, there is a lesson. Life itself often moves in loops, though. We prefer to imagine it as a straight line. Seasons repeat, histories echo, families pass traditions down in circles. In sleep, the loops are simply more obvious. They remind you of a truth your waking mind tries to forget. That time, in its most natural form, is not a straight path, but a circle. As the night wears on, the loops grow lighter. Deep sleep diminishes, dreams grow longer, and by the final cycle, the body is preparing to rise. The last dream may feel particularly vivid, sometimes lasting until the exact moment you open your eyes. It is as if The mind is reluctant to let go of the loop, reluctant to hand you back to the daylight. But even as you rise, even as the outer world returns, the loops of night remain. They will be waiting for you when the sun sets again, ready to draw the same soft circles, to carry you through the same hidden rhythm. And so, while you may think of sleep as rest, you can also think of it as a nightly returner ritual of cycles, each one carrying you inward and then outward again, like breathing, like the turning of the moon. When you drift tonight, remember that you are stepping into these circles once more. Light to deep, dream to stillness, a dance as old as life itself, a wheel that never stops turning, even when you forget it exists. Asterisk, insomnia has always been one of humanity's strangest companions. It is not a storm, not an illness in the way we think of fever or cough, but rather a silence that grows too loud. The body lies down, the room is still, the night stretches outward, and yet the mind refuses to loosen its grip. What should have been a gentle passage into rest becomes an endless corridor, a hallway where each minute clicks louder than the last dot. To someone resting peacefully, an hour of night is nothing. It arrives and passes, folded into dreams, forgotten. But to the sleepless, an hour swells into a burden. The brain, restless and vigilant, takes every second and stretches it thin until it hums. It is the magnification of time, the way a magnifying glass takes a small spark of sunlight and turns it into something that burns. History is filled with people who have described this strange dilation of night. Monks in the Middle Ages lying awake in their stone cells. Wrote of time slowing to a crawl, of shadows that seemed unwilling to move across the walls. Soldiers on campaign wrote of sleepless nights before battle, when the hours before dawn became longer than entire days of marching. Ordinary villagers, lying awake in cottages or farmhouses, counted the creaks of beams above them, each one stretched into eternity. Modern science suggests why insomnia warps time. When the brain cannot descend into the steady rhythm of sleep cycles, it remains in a heightened state of attention. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of planning and awareness, does not dim as it should. Without that dimming, the mind clings to every passing thought, every tick of the clock, every faint noise outside. The perception of duration expands. Few minutes feel like an ordeal. An hour feels like a vigil. The body, too, participates in this distortion. Heart rate rises slightly, muscles tense. Cortisol, the hormone of stress, lingers longer than it should. These signals tell the brain that wakefulness matters, that danger may lurk. And so the brain listens, misled by its own alarms, and holds time hostage. What is, in truth, the ordinary length of night becomes a drawn-out performance of unease, yet insomnia is not only suffering. In the stillness of wakeful nights, people throughout history have encountered moments of clarity. Philosophers have found that thoughts arrive differently when the world is quiet and everyone else is asleep. Writers, too, have confessed that their most peculiar ideas were born under the pressure of insomnia. When time seems stretched thin enough to glimpse through its fabric, it is as though sleeplessness allows a person to stand both inside and outside of time, to see its flow slowed down, as though the river of hours has widened into a shallow delta. Still, for most, insomnia is not creativity, but longing. The bed becomes less a place of comfort and more a prison. The body shifts, seeking a posture that will unlock rest. The eyes close, but behind them, the theater of thoughts plays on without pause. The mind rehearses conversations that have not happened, replays mistakes of years past, imagines futures that may never arrive. All of these projections clutter the present, preventing the surrender that sleep requires. Ancient traditions tried to soothe this. Herbal remedies, valerian root in Europe, chamomile in the Mediterranean, jujube seeds in China were thought to soften the restless mind. Rituals, too, were created, prayers repeated until words lost meaning, chants designed to dull awareness, slow breathing that mirrored sleep itself. What all these traditions shared was the attempt to bring the sleeper back into rhythm, okay? To restore the circular flow of night instead of its painful stretching in the brain. Memory also plays a role in insomnia's ache. Normally, when sleep comes, memory begins to dissolve the day, filing it away in fragments. This dissolving gives a sensation of passing time, of moving from one state into another. But in insomnia, memory remains sharp. The events of the day return again and again, not faded but vivid, each one tying the sleeper to the present moment. Without the erosion of memory, there is no gentle slipping into timelessness. There is only the present, repeated endlessly. For those who cannot sleep, dawn often comes with surprise. After hours of watching time creep, the moment of surrender sometimes arrives unnoticed. One blink, another, and suddenly the room is pale with morning light. The mind may have slept only minutes, but it feels as though it lost entire chapters of night. Here again is time's strange trick. What felt infinite in wakefulness is revealed to have been finite after all. Insomnia can be seen as a mirror of sleep itself, where sleep contracts time, folding hours into what feels like minutes. Insomnia expands it, stretching minutes into what feels like hours. One state is merciful, the other merciless, but both are rooted in the same machinery, the brain's ability to measure, distort, and experience time in ways that are not strictly bound to the clock on the wall. And so, when sleep is broken, when the body lies restless and the night seems eternal, one is witnessing time in its most fragile form, time without the cushion of memory, time without the rhythm of dreams, time magnified until it aches. For the listener drifting now, perhaps into sleep, perhaps still awake, this truth may offer comfort. If time feels long, it is only perception. The dawn will arrive, whether watched or slept through, and in that arrival lies the reminder that insomnia, too, is part of the cycle. The endless night eventually yields, the stretched minutes eventually fold back, and the ache of time gives way to morning. Asterisk on restful nights. You close your eyes at midnight and open them at dawn, with hours dissolved into nothingness. It is a strange magic that so much time can pass, and yet you are not there to notice it. One moment, your eyelids fall heavy, your thoughts drifting like autumn leaves scattered across a quiet river. The next moment, sunlight presses faintly against your closed lids, as if it had always been waiting. The span between those moments, perhaps 6, 7, even 8 hours, disappears as though erased. Time has been swallowed, folded into silence. This vanishing act is not a flaw in perception, but a feature of the sleeping mind. When deep sleep claims you, your brain enters slow wave rhythms. Waves so large and heavy that they silence the chatter of ordinary consciousness. The hippocampus, librarian of your memories, rests from its daily duty. Without new entries to record, there are no bookmarks in the night. Time becomes smooth, seamless, and invisible. Scientists describe this as a suspension of episodic memory. But to you, lying in the dark, it feels like a leap across a chasm. You were at the edge, and suddenly you are on the other side, never recalling the crossing. That missing span of hours is a kindness. It is the mind's way of protecting you from the ceaseless measurement of moments. It lets you forget so that you may heal, and healing requires silence. During these vanished hours, your body works in secret. Muscles knit small tears, bones strengthen, and the immune system rallies against unseen threats. The brain flushes waste through the lymphatic system, clearing away the clutter of waking thought. None of this is felt. None of this is remembered, yet it is essential, and perhaps that is why it must happen in darkness, away from awareness, away from the tyranny of ticking seconds. You may have noticed how a night of true rest feels short. You glance at the clock, midnight hand, then again at the light through the window morning. 8 hours have vanished without resistance. Compare this to a night of broken sleep when you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, counting each minute as though it were a stone pressing down on you. There, time stretches unbearably, but in rest, it evaporates. Why does the brain allow time to vanish in this way? One thought is that it spares you from burden, so remain aware through all the long hours of sleep would be to carry too much. Every turn of the body, every flicker of a neuron, every slow exhale, remembered, replayed. The weight of such memory would crush the delicate rhythm of rest. Instead, your mind erases the slate, keeping only fragments of dreams, a trace of sensation, or nothing at all. And yet, not everything is lost. Though hours vanish from conscious recall, the body's internal clocks continue to tick. Your circadian rhythm keeps pace with the world beyond your bedroom walls. Its hormones rise and fall in their quiet choreography. Melatonin dimming toward dawn, cortisol preparing you to wake. The vanishing of hours is not chaos, it is a hidden order, a rhythm designed to let you live another day. Think of a candle burning. You do not watch every atom of wax dissolve into air, yet in the morning, the candle is smaller. So it is with the hours of sleep. They burn away unseen, but their absence leaves you lighter, restored, and there is comfort in this vanishing. To know that time can be dissolved, that not every second must be carried or remembered, is to feel a kind of mercy. The night takes your burdens, holds them for you, and gives them back as morning light. Of course, sometimes a fragment remains. A dream may linger, its shape oddly vivid. Perhaps you were walking through a city that never existed, or speaking with someone long gone, or watching the sea curl backward into the sky. These fragments remind you that the vanished hours were not empty. They were full of invisible life, woven from sparks of the brain. But only the edges survive into morning. The rest is lost. It's folded into the great silence of sleep. Philosophers once wondered if sleep was a rehearsal for death, a kind of small extinction. After all, in both, awareness vanishes and time slips away. But sleep is gentler. Erases without ending, pauses without breaking, and restores what it takes. The hours that vanish are not gone forever. They have been transformed into strength, clarity, healing. Some people speak of lost time with regret. They wish to capture more of the night, to remain conscious through its span, to never miss a moment of living. But to live is also to lose, and in that loss is the quiet beauty of renewal. The vanishing hours are not wasted. They are woven into you, into your breath, into your ability to rise again. Consider the long chain of nights behind you, all those thousands of evenings when you surrendered, only to awake again. How many hours have dissolved without memory? Tens of thousands, perhaps more. And yet each of those vanished spans shaped you, kept you alive, carried you here. The hours may be gone, but their gift remains. The poet in you may see this vanishing as a lesson that not everything needs to be remembered, that the unrecorded has its own power. The scientist in you may see it as a marvel of biology, the precise choreography of brain waves and circadian rhythms. Both are true. Both explain why you lie down at midnight and rise at dawn with the hours erased behind you. So when you next close your eyes, do not fear the vanishing. Welcome it. Let time dissolve like mist under sunlight. Know that when you wake, the missing hours will have done their work. They will have stitched you whole again, even as they left no trace in memory. The vanishing hours are not an absence. They are the silence that makes renewal possible. Asterisk, scientists, with their machines and quiet patience, have long tried to map the hidden topography of the dreaming mind. Key, in laboratories where soft wires rest against sleeping heads, they record the faint electrical storms of the brain. The readouts trace jagged waves across dark screens, lines that bend and rise like tides pulled by an invisible moon. These waves are the first language of sleep science, way of listening to the silence inside. REM rapid. Eye movement arrives like a tide returning to shore. Q, beneath closed eyelids, eyes dart and flicker, though the body itself lies paralyzed. In these phases, the brain is as active as it is during waking hours, sometimes even more so. Bursts of electrical activity ripple across the cortex, sharp and bright, like sudden lightning on a night sea. For decades, researchers thought these flickers were random noise, the mind idling while the body rested. But time revealed a deeper pattern. These bursts were the scaffolding of dreams. Electroencephalograms, or EEGs, chart these patterns. Each oscillation carries a frequency, a rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. Delta waves, slow and heavy, belong to deep sleep. Theta waves, lighter and more fluid, swim in the shallows of slumber. And in REM, a blend appears, rapid, irregular waves that mimic wakefulness. To the scientist, this is paradox in unconscious body, housing a brain alive with waking fire. To the dreamer, it is a world unfolding behind closed eyes, a world where time ceases to obey. Researchers once tried to measure dream time directly. They asked sleepers to perform small signals moving their eyes in a specific pattern inside their dreams. Astonishingly, the signals matched the passage of time in waking life. A dreamer asked to wait 10 seconds inside their dream would mark it with 10 seconds of eye movements. In some dreams, at least, the clock ran true. Yet anyone who has dreamed knows this is only part of the story. Some dreams feel like lifetimes, spilling across imagined years. Others pass in an instant, collapsing into a single vivid image. Science describes what can be observed, measured, replicated, but dreams resist such borders. The oscillations can be charted, the phases categorized, the neurotransmitters identified. Acetylcholine surges during REM, driving the brain's vivid imagery. Serotonin and norepinephrine dip, giving dreams their strange lack of logic, their dissolving edges. The hippocampus, the keeper of memory, fires in loops, replaying fragments of the day, stitching them with fragments of the past. Yet still, when you wake, you carry the sensation that you have lived through a story longer than a night could hold. Some researchers suggest that dreams compress time away. A film condenses decades into 2 hours. Your brain does not replay every detail, only the highlights, the essential frames. In the theater of sleep, your mind is director and editor both, cutting away the dull stretches, stitching scenes together with invisible seams. To the dreamer, the sequence feels whole. To the scientist, it is an illusion, a narrative pieced together after the fact. And yet, illusions have their own reality. The neurons still fire, the signals still pass. To dismiss the felt sense of dream time is to forget that experience itself is a kind of truth. Science measures what can be seen from outside. Dreaming is what is lived from within. Consider the experiments with lucid dreaming, where sleepers become aware of the dream while still inside it. In such states, dreamers can sometimes control time itself, stretching moments, repeating them, or slowing them like syrup poured from a jar. These reports unsettle the neat categories of science. If the brain can experience elastic time, then the physics of dreams is not merely biological, but phenomenological, intersection of matter and perception. Inside the skull, neurons fire at measurable speeds. Outside, the laboratory clock ticks steadily forward. But within the dream, time is elastic, subjective, and intimate. A single flicker of neurons might contain the feeling of an hour. A cascade of signals might hold an entire narrative of youth, age, and ending. In this sense, the physics of dreams is not unlike the physics of the cosmos. Both bend time into shapes the waking mind struggles to hold. Einstein once said that time is what the clock measures, yet also that it is relative, stretching near light, bending near gravity. In dreams, time follows a similar relativity, not of space or speed, but of consciousness. A tease, perhaps the brain itself carries its own gravity wells, pulling seconds into years or years into seconds. Perhaps the act of dreaming is a kind of relativity played out in miniature, the physics of the cosmos echoed in the folds of the mind. And so, the scientists continue to map their waves, tracing REM cycles like astronomers charting stars. Night is a journey through recurring phases: descent into deep sleep, rise into REM, descent again. The loops repeat in quiet spirals until dawn. To the scientist, it is measurable rhythm. To the dreamer, it is a theater of timelessness, each act unfolding in its own strange duration. Even now, there are questions left unanswered. Why do dreams feel so real? Why does the brain cloak its nightly theater in amnesia so that only fragments remain? Why do some dreams carry weight, reshaping waking moods, while others dissolve before morning light? The physics of dreams can describe the currents, the waves, the neurotransmitters, and oscillations. But the essence of dream time remains beyond equations. It is in this gap that wonder resides. Science can measure the body of the dream, but the soul of it slips away. Perhaps that is its purpose, to remind us that not all mysteries can be solved, that some are meant to be carried, like songs we half remember. The physics of dreams brings us close, but never all the way in. And as you listen now, drifting toward your own REM, you may feel the edges of this paradox. Your brain will spark, your eyes will flicker, and scientists could name the rhythms if they were watching. Yet, what you will live through the landscapes, the voices, the elastic time will belong only to you. It will be both mapped and unmapped, measured and immeasurable, physics and mystery entwined. Asterisk awake. Time is a clock. It ticks with certainty, second by second, hands crawling across a dial, or digits glowing on a screen. 8 measures, records, and orders the day. But asleep, time loses its rigid gears. It becomes a river flowing, meandering, swelling, and retreating. Sometimes it surges forward in torrents. Sometimes it stands still in quiet pools. And as you drift deeper into the night, you become a traveler on this river, carried along, without oars, without any need to steer. The metaphor of the river has followed humanity for centuries. Ancient poets compared time to water always flowing, always escaping our grasp. The philosopher Heraclitus declared that no one steps into the same river twice, because the waters are always moving on. This image feels particularly true when applied to sleep. In waking life, we cling to time as though it were solid. We plan our meals, our work, our appointments, and our days according to hours and minutes. But in sleep, the illusion of solidity falls away. Time reveals itself as liquid, shimmering, and elusive. Think of the first minutes of a dream. You fall asleep at midnight, perhaps, but in a dream, you may walk through an entire village, speak with many people, and live through events that seem to last days. Then you wake and find that only 5 minutes have passed. The river has looped back upon itself, condensing what should have been a long journey into a brief cascade of rushing water. Other times, the opposite occurs. Tia, you may do something very simple in a dream: tie a rope, walk across a room, and yet upon waking, You feel as if an hour has disappeared. The current of the river was sluggish, each moment stretching into vast distance. Scientists, with their electrodes and brain scans, try to measure what the river is doing inside the skull. They find that dream time often matches real time more closely than we assume. In experiments, dreamers asked to count slowly within a dream often take about the same number of seconds as they would awake, and yet the experience of those seconds is wildly different. Why? Because perception is not measurement. The brain does not keep time like a clock. It builds time out of memory, out of rhythm, out of the linking of one thought to the next. And in dreams, those links stretch and warp. The subjective river flows differently for each mind. Imagine floating on that river. At one bend, you pass through childhood again. The room you slept in as a child comes rushing back, the faint hum of a ceiling fan, the smell of old books, the muffled sounds of family in the distance. These memories blend seamlessly into the dream, and you are carried back decades in seconds. At another bend, you leap into a future not yet lived. You walk into a house you have never seen, speak to people you have not met. The river is not concerned with chronology. It cares only for the feeling of flow, the carrying forward of impressions. The subjective river is also circular. Each night, you pass through cycles: light sleep, deep sleep, REM again and again. The river loops, as if it circles back to its source before pouring downstream again. This looping shapes your sense of time in the night. You may wake briefly, note the clock, then fall asleep again and drift back into the current. Later, upon waking for good, you may struggle to piece together how long you traveled. The memory of the journey has been smoothed over like stones rounded in water, and yet there is comfort in the river. Because, unlike the ticking clock, which reminds us of deadlines and limits, the river suggests continuity. It suggests that even as hours vanish, they are not truly lost. They are absorbed into the flow. To sleep is to surrender to this flow, to allow the water to carry you. There is no rush, no urgency. Even if the current speeds or slows, you are held. The river of subjective time makes no demands. Consider insomnia, the nights when the river seems dammed. You lie awake, counting the minutes, and each one feels swollen and heavy. The river does not flow at pools, stagnant, holding you captive. In those moments, the tyranny of the waking clock intrudes into the night. But once sleep finally comes, the river breaks free again. It washes away the harshness of measured time and restores the gentle, circular loops of dreaming. The philosopher Augustine once said that time itself is difficult to grasp. When he is not asked, he knows what it is. When he tries to explain it, it slips away. The same is true of the subjective river of sleep. We live it every night, yet we can hardly describe it. We wake with fragments on image, a feeling, a scene, but the flow that carried us is gone. The river has already moved on. Still, in its mystery, the river teaches us something profound, that time is not only what clocks say, it is also what the mind feels. It is elastic, shaped by perception, memory, and dream. It is measured, not only in seconds, but in heartbeats, in breaths, in the spaces between thoughts. And perhaps that is why sleep is so essential. It gives us not only rest, but also a reminder that the rigid framework of ours in minutes is not the only way to live. There is another kind of time fluid, circular, forgiving. So tonight, as you drift, imagine yourself stepping into a boat. The water is calm. Stars reflect on its surface. The current catches you, pulling gently. You do not need to row. You do not need to guide. The river of subjective time will take you where it will. You may loop backward into memory. You may surge forward into dream, or you may simply float in stillness. However it moves, it will carry you safely through the night until the morning sun lifts the veil and you awaken once more to the ticking of the clock. But even then, even as you step back into measured hours, a part of you remembers. A part of you carries the sensation of the river's bends, its pools, its mysterious loops. And that memory softens the edges of waking time. It reminds you that beneath the rigid seconds of the day, there is always another flow waiting for you, quiet and eternal. Asterisk, the alarm rings, a sharp note, mechanical, ordinary. Yet, in that moment, it feels almost foreign, a signal cutting across a vast, silent ocean. You stir, eyes reluctant to open, and the shapes of the room come back into being. The curtains, the dim grave of early light, the steady outline of furniture, objects you know, objects you have lived among, but which have been absent in the fluid. Landscapes asleep, you breathe, and with that breath, the world of clocks and calendars begins again. 4 hours, you drifted in another order of time, one where the minutes stretched or dissolved, where whole lifetimes were lived inside a dream that flickered out in seconds. Now, the gears of waking time resume, each tick pulling you forward in measured, irreversible steps. It is almost jarring to return to this fixed rhythm, to surrender to the tyranny of seconds, to once again be ruled by numbers that pay no heed to your inner tides. The body feels it first. Your circadian clock, quiet through the night, signals the chemistry of morning. Cortisol rises, nudging your blood to flow faster, your heart to quicken, your senses to sharpen against the pool of dreams. You do not see this clock, yet it is more faithful than the watch on your wrist. Even without alarms, your body knows the time, trained by sun and season, by the endless repetition of mornings and nights. And so, as the alarm blares, it is not only sound that wakes you, it is biology pulling you back, layer by layer, from the soft, unmeasured night. Memory also stirs. The fragments of your dreams cling to you like dew on grass, a face, a hallway, a sensation of falling. They shimmer in your mind's edge, but already they begin to vanish. Dreams live in a time without anchors, and so, once awake, they unravel because memory requires order. The dream you thought endless is now only a flicker. The hour that felt like seconds is now stretched back into its measured length. You lie there for a moment, between two worlds, the subjective river of night and the linear road of day. The clock on the wall insists on precision. 6:47, no more, no less. It does not care that in your sleep a century may have passed, or that a single kiss lingered longer than an hour. It only marks what is measurable, its hands indifferent to the mysteries within you. And yet, even as you rise, wash your face, step into the patterns of morning, a residue of the night lingers. You feel it in the slowness of your breath, in the way sound seems just a little softened, in the gentle resistance of your body to the rigid pace of schedules. It is as though the timeless night refuses to leave entirely. For many, this transition is unnoticed. Wake, stretch, move on. But if you pause, you may sense the subtle dissonance. Inside, your neurons still hum with the rhythms of sleep. The pulses of REM, the long, slow waves of deep rest. They leave echoes your brain has not fully abandoned. Its fluid clock of night. Perhaps this is why mornings feel fragile. Why the first hour can carry both clarity and confusion. You are here in daylight, but part of you is still adrift in that river without banks. Science has measured this shift. Electroencephalograms chart the rising frequencies as sleep gives way to wakefulness. Hormones surge in predictable waves. Temperature rises, system reboots, but science cannot measure the feeling, that subtle mourning for the vanished night, for the timeless space where you were free of the clock's insistence. Nor can science capture the quiet wonder of realizing that both are true. That time can be rigid, marked by seconds and alarms, and also fluid, stretching and bending within the dreaming mind. Think of it. Every night you live in two realities. One where time is absolute, and one where time is malleable, elastic, mysterious. And each morning you bridge them. You carry across faint fragments, a lingering dream, a slowed heartbeat, a sense that the night was longer or shorter than it was. The alarm reclaims you, oh, but it cannot erase the other clock. That hidden rhythm is part of you, always pulsing, just beneath the measured hours of the day, as you sip coffee, as the sun climbs higher, as tasks and conversations begin. The memory of the timeless night fades, but it is not gone. It waits for evening, for darkness, for the moment when you once again close your eyes and surrender. And when that happens, the rigid clock will dissolve again, replaced by rivers, loops, flickers of neurons, dreams that hold centuries in a second. The alarm has done its job. You are awake. You are bound once more to hours, to the measured pace of daylight. But somewhere, deep inside, the night remains quiet and fluid. A reminder that time is not as simple as the ticking of a clock, that between each second, another world exists. A world you return to, night after night, whether or not you remember it.